Welcome to the Investor Shed Podcast with Nick Beveridge, the ultimate source for all things investing and beyond. For free tools, tips, and tricks, go to northidahorei.com. Today's episode features Trevor Rendall. Trevor is a newer investor who started off in construction. After being contracted on a fix and flip, Trevor got the investing bug from seeing the investors pay off and hasn't looked back since. They talk about housing market increases, their drive for learning and pushing themselves, and much more. Stay tuned.
All right, Trevor.
Yes.
You made it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Spokane, Washington over to Coeur d'Alene. So.
Made it over that state line.
Yes.
I thought you guys were quarantined.
No. I mean, we were, but I mean, much less than you guys. Yes.
Much less.
Yes. In fact, as soon as I got here, I realized there's no one wearing a mask in Coeur d'Alene right now.
I know, it's sad.
Yeah.
It's a lot of, they'll come around maybe.
Totally. I mean, when they get in our office, you know, we do social distancing, do our best.
But. Yeah, we've definitely practiced that. Plenty of hand, as you can see, what is that stuff called? Sanitizer, yeah. I just learned what that is this year. No, I'm just kidding.
I think everyone knows that, in detail now.
So tell me a little bit about yourself. So you're kind of a newer investor, but you just like came running out of the gates from
Absolutely.
what I hear. Do you mind telling me a little bit about your background and how you got into real estate investing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm definitely the up-and-coming, overzealous new investor. That's personality type, going way back. But my entry point was construction.
Okay.
So going 5 years back, got into construction, I wanted to learn how to build houses from the ground up. Again, overzealous towards that. I mean, I would study by night and hit the tools by day. Within short time, I was able to go from, working with finish carpenters fast into a lead position, probably faster than I was prepared for.
Okay.
But that's a lot of how I've been able to grow and learn, is it's very much jump out of the airplane and build a parachute. So
how long you been in construction again? You said
5 years ago.
Few years. Mm-hmm. And then what were you mostly doing in the field?
So primarily, I mean, it was starting from the ground up, apprentice.
Okay.
So I knew nothing.
Okay.
I wasn't raised in construction.
That's okay.
Yeah. So I came up apprentice, and then as soon as I got into lead position, I also have a little bit of a business background.
Oh, okay.
So,
What'd you do before that?
So prior to that, 7 years, I was the distribution manager over at the weekly paper, The Inlander, over in Spokane.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So managing spreadsheets, managing crews, hiring, firing, like I already had that in the toolkit.
Okay. Well, that's a big part of this business.
Absolutely.
Spreadsheets and managing people.
Absolutely, yeah. No, in fact, some of the guys in the field that I was swinging the hammer with, they're still swinging the hammer. Mm-hmm. And I love that, but if you don't have the business background, it's hard to take that to the next level. So as soon as I got to a point where I was a lead, I knew I wanted to be a general contractor.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long ago did you get interested in real estate investing?
So 1 year ago.
1 year. Okay.
Almost to date.
Right on.
Yeah.
So last summer, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And where are you today investing-wise?
Yeah, absolutely. So 1 year ago, so I was a general contractor, starting to bring on guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's just me, basically my right-hand man and a lead carpenter. And, we're already looking to bring on some more people. And we got hired to do a fix and flip.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, great. So we did the fix and flip, quick cosmetic, 15 grand, fix and flip. And then we saw how much that investor made compared to what I was making being a contractor.
And how did you see how much he made?
Just go on the county records, look up, since I did the entire fix and flip.
Right.
I knew how much the rehab was. I knew how much he purchased at, and then I saw how much he sold it for. So, I made, 20% on, 15 grand.
Yeah.
So, which is 3 grand.
Enough to pay half your bills, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So, payroll. And then, I think he made about 45 grand on that one.
Okay. And how involved was he in the the construction side of it?
Well, that was the beauty of it. Since we walked it one time, and we just gave him all these suggestions, and he said, "Yeah, yes to those 5 things, no to those 5 things. That's it. We're done." I said, "Great."
Okay. One meeting.
It was surprising actually. I look back and I see now how to do fix and flips better, and he was showing me then. But everyone wants to do the HGTV fix and flip, as did I. My first few. But there's definitely a threshold where you cross over and you're now just giving money to the future buyer.
Right.
Which is nice.
Over improving.
Yes.
Yep.
And if you're a philanthropist, that's great. But if you want to run a sustainable business, you got to find that sweet spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you saw this investor make about $45,000. Mm-hmm. And that got you thinking, I'm in the wrong business?
Totally. And then we happened to connect with another guy who had us do a fix and flip. And then from there, it was just my questions and curiosity lit fire. And then from that point forward, I totally switched with this focus on, being the best general contractor, which now that's in full swing. So Rendall Remodeling is in full swing.
Okay, so you never quit that job.
Never quit it.
You just turned it into a business?
Correct. Okay. We have an excellent crew run by a superb team. So, thus far, we've maintained all 5-star reviews.
Great.
And
for a contractor.
Yes.
Wow.
Hard to do.
It's hard to get one 5-star review out of anyone.
Totally agree. Yeah. And, the guys we bring on, one, they're rock stars, but 2, we really make sure communication, customer service, the cliche terms, but they're key in the remodel business. So anyways, so I left that in full swing, and then I completely devoted my energy and effort to the real estate side.
Okay. So, how did you make your entry? Did you find a mentor, or did you just research stuff online, or did you just jump into it with not knowing anything?
Jumped into it with not knowing anything.
Okay.
Yeah. So, talk about skin your knee, bump your elbow, all of the above. But in my opinion, that's how you learn an accelerated.
That's how you learn the best.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Making mistakes.
Correct.
You don't learn anything when you hit home runs.
Correct. No. In fact, you might have false ambitions at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was really just absolutely throwing myself into it. And luckily I didn't have, any bad burns. They were just, scraped elbows and stuff. So My first deal was August of last year. Partnered up with a wholesaler.
Okay.
So I had a buddy. It's funny, we were neighbors.
Wait, so this is how you knew the wholesaler is just your neighbor?
He's just my neighbor.
Okay. And he just happened to be an investor.
He was just diving into it just as much as I was as a fix and flipper. He was diving into it as a wholesaler.
Okay.
And then he started telling me what, he's doing. I told him I'm looking for my first deal. Yep. So just down the street, we partnered up on our first deal. 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom. I think we got it for $135, put $40,000 into it, remodeled the whole thing, rented it out to 5 college students, $500 a room.
Okay.
It's $2,500 a month. So the first deal was gone pretty good.
Okay. So your first deal was you fixed it up and rented it.
Correct.
Okay. So how did you buy the property? Mm-hmm. How'd you finance it? Obviously you found it was just down the street. Was it on the market?
I know so he was already working that deal because he was door knocking and walking in the neighborhood. Yes,
okay.
The wholesaler found it.
Okay.
And he was already
on his block.
Exactly.
Great.
He's already starting to door knock his own neighborhood.
Okay.
So
smart guy.
Best deals are in your backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. So from there, that was our first deal, and it was a buy and hold. And since then, I would never recommend anyone's first deal be a buy and hold unless you have plenty of cash. So
I'd have to agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So lesson learned there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first deal, and why did you guys decide to keep it as a rental versus just flip it? Because he got into the business, obviously, to flip contracts.
Correct.
And
yeah, and mine was to flip real estate, and that would be our cash.
Did it not work as a fix and flip?
Oh, it would have worked wonderfully. Again, part of the skin in your elbow part. We just got so, excited about this being. He went out and found 5 Whitworth students ready to, rent each room. I mean, from everything we'd researched that point, it's hard to find a cash flowing property like that. It was over the 1% rule.
Yeah.
So from the, we knew it was a good deal that way. What we didn't realize is all this money we dumped into it. Well, we still need that money out of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's where I was like, okay, we got to jump back to fix and flips and get money going here. We're going to run out of cash flow here. So.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, tell me a little bit about, so you told me what you bought it for. It was in the 130s?
Yeah.
And then you put about 40 into it. So you're all in, what, 180, 190?
Yeah.
Were there financing fees involved? Did you guys get conventional financing?
Oh, yeah. So we got
hard money?
Got a hard money, 12%, 2 points.
Okay. So what were your payments on that?
Not bad. Around the 1,200 mark, because I believe he had us bring some cash down, but we carried the rehab. We had to cash flow a lot of that. Luckily, my remodel business was doing so well that we were able to cash flow a lot of this.
Okay.
But it wasn't sustainable. So since then, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but, I use private monies as leverage, OPM. Now the whole game is leverage. I almost went belly up on my first deal just because I almost ran out of money.
Yeah.
So
did you have a bunch of reserves that you threw into the deal initially, and you didn't have anything on the side for when things went wrong?
Other than other jobs that kept coming up, that was cash flow in the business.
So that's one of the biggest things I've learned over time. I don't really buy a deal unless I know that it can be financed 100%. Like a hard money lender will be like, all right, here's all the money. It's a good enough deal. My LTV is good. And I will have cash, but I won't want to put it into it. I want to have it on the sidelines.
Correct.
Because things go wrong on every deal.
Guaranteed.
And I'd like to have that cushion. And I'd rather not just, okay, I've got 20 grand. I'm going to put it in this deal and I have to be on budget or things go wrong.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you don't want things will go wrong, but you don't want it to go wrong financially.
Exactly.
And, where you're going to be red in your bank account.
Yeah. And again, because luckily I had come to a point where I was, a little bit diversified with the remodel side that was helping fill the gap at that time. If I was just doing the fix and flip, I don't know if I would have survived my entry point, to be honest. Right. It's like the rocket taking off, takes 80% of its fuel on launch.
Yeah.
So I was feeling that in the beginning. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So do you still own that house?
I do. I do. So long story on that one, but I paid the wholesaler out, cashed him out.
So you own it now?
Correct.
How much did you have to pay him out?
Well, that one's confidential. We had to go back and forth along back and forth on that one. Because it's kind of tied into other deals too. So it's hard to explain.
Okay.
But yeah, so had to pay the wholesaler out of the deal after back and forth negotiations. And then, now we've got the deal. And since then I've been on, should I sell it? Should I keep it? But now I'm finally getting to a point where we can keep it. And it's the best cash flowing property we have. So
great.
Yeah.
Okay. So what'd your second deal look like?
Second deal. Ooh, that was the mother of all deals. So that was the one that really helped us. Property on the north side of Spokane. It was a burn house.
Okay.
And
so for those who don't know what you mean,
house caught on fire.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. House caught on fire. The lady, wanted, I want to say around 120, 150. We walked it and just said, this is a complete not tear down, but definitely gut.
Okay.
So we got it at 80,000.
Okay.
Fast forward, full beautiful gut. We sold it for 256.
Was this another wholesale deal?
No, this is where, so here's where I started to go network crazy. Started to go to the RIA meetings.
Yeah.
Started to spread out. So realtors, here's where I started to really capitalize on the leverage of realtors. And I let every realtor know I have no one working for me exclusively, but bring me the deal. You can represent me on the deal. And that became the name of the game.
Yeah.
Well, this one such realtor, amazing gal, by the name of Barb. She said, "Hey, I see this deal. This lady is going to just want to get out of it." So we got her down. She's like, "I want 110. We're like, 80 is the best we can do. And all of a sudden she said, "If you let me get my insurance money, you can have it at 80. Done deal."
Nice.
Yeah. So we put about 80 into it, and then sold it for 256.
So that's great.
Yeah.
And thinking about it, I mean, it's funny that more people don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have how many realtors do you have in Spokane?
I mean, I have on my phone, at least when I reach out to them, probably a list of 40 at this point. Yeah.
So if you had to go find more, are realtors hard to find?
And not by any means for me. I mean,
okay.
No, is that a trick question?
They kind of put their information out there, don't they?
They do. And, the thing I love about working with realtors is they don't get paid unless they go out there and earn a paycheck.
And sell you a house.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's funny when you think a lot of people have these preconceived notions about realtors because of experiences that they've had with maybe one or two or three people.
Correct.
But when you have a county with a couple thousand agents, there's a lot of agents out there that would be happy to work with somebody on a non-exclusive basis.
Yeah.
They don't want the commitment either, a lot of them, especially the good ones.
Yeah.
And the ones that are busy. They're like, yeah, I'd be happy to bring you a deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally understand if you're working with other agents. It doesn't bother me. But
Yeah.
if I find a deal, yeah, I'll put you on my list. And how many agents do you have to talk to for them to bring you a deal? I mean, if you think about it, every agent at least has like a couple really extremely good deals off market a year.
Yep.
So if you go talk to 20 of them and keep them in your database, you might get one a month.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think right now we're approaching, again, not to jump too far ahead, but after just 1 year, August to August, approaching we're somewhere in 12 to 15 deals we've done. So, decent. My goal this year was to do one a month. So essentially we achieved that goal. This goal moving forward this year is to get 4 properties under contract a month. So we're averaging about 2 right now. But that's going ahead. But yeah, to this point. So, when people start going into, okay, where are these leads coming from that we convert on?
Yeah.
And you start looking at lists all the way from pre-foreclosures to vacant. Yes, realtors is a category all to its own. And you meet great people who bring you deals. You have long-term relationships with. I couldn't say enough about connecting and networking with realtors.
Yeah. But you have to have more sources though, because it's just one leg of a stool.
Correct.
One leg is pretty rockety.
Correct.
So you have really good balance.
Absolutely.
But if you can get 3, 4, 5 legs under a stool, you'll be sitting pretty good.
No, absolutely. It's kind of like the fishing poles in the water. You look at the charter boats versus just, going with your buddy Chuck over the weekend. The fish they're drawn in versus you and your buddy Chuck, it's different.
Right.
So...
Yeah. I went fishing for the first time in like a decade with this my partner's boyfriend, and and he goes out like a madman.
Yeah,
and he's got 2 or 3 poles in the water as I'm just like sitting there with one.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. No, that's funny you say that because I always use fishing metaphors, and I haven't fished like over in a decade either. But I'm always going to my fishing metaphors. I don't know why I do that. Anyways, side note, it's funny. Yeah.
All right. So, so sorry I interrupted.
No, yeah.
Talking about agents, and then what other kind of sources are you using to get deals?
So agents has worked great for me, and I continue to obviously use that. But yeah, I've moved on to so when COVID hit, I created a acquisitions department. So I laid off 15 guys in the field. So my crew's gotten pretty big because one, the remodel side is all to its own. It's got a project manager over it, leads, boom. Then I have a rehab side, project manager, and I've got one guy over the whole thing. He's my right-hand man. He's been with me from day one. So he just runs everything in the field, and I run everything in the office. So COVID hit, laid off everyone. Well, I got bored sitting at home for a week, and I knew this was, before acquisitions was really just done by me.
Yeah.
Networking, going and looking at places. I mean, that was it. So, not bad. Year one, just doing, by myself. But so now having an acquisitions manager and 2 acquisitions assistants, we have a department. That's why our new goal is 4 properties under contract a month.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So when did you start all that up?
So I think it was the 2nd or 3rd week of March, just a few months back.
Okay.
Yeah. So
was that nerve-wracking at all, starting a new business like that
in the middle of a global pandemic?
COVID?
Yeah, absolutely. It is. Yeah, it's terrifying. But I'm, everyone gives me a hard time in the company, but I am absolutely someone who believes you got to go and kick down doors, and if you're going to get where you're going, you just keep going. And for me, that's why jumping out of an airplane, building the parachute on the way down is our theme. And it's not like, we don't do every decision we do, deeply calculated. We do.
Yeah.
Every deal's got to still be a deal. Every hire's got to still be a rock star, and so on. But I'm someone that as soon as I've seen the data, it's decision time. I don't get paralyzed by analytics. So anyways, I don't know where I was going with that, but
no, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people suffer. Like a lot of people that are attracted to real estate investing really have that high analytical personality trait.
Yeah.
And that is one of the most paralyzing traits you can have when it comes to this, because they're attracted to real estate because they understand the facts that, hey, these are the best returns you can get, pretty much.
True.
Out of it, if you want to do well in money. And then they look, and you can overanalyze things to death because there's so many different variables and nothing's guaranteed.
Absolutely.
And there's always risk.
Absolutely.
So it's a blessing and a curse.
Totally.
In real estate investing to have that analytical mindset, because it will serve you well and it won't.
Absolutely.
It will cripple you from making actions.
Yeah. No. So knowing that about myself, though, I actually try to bring guys on my team who have that. We have another joke, I have that lion personality where it's all about decision making. But we have another guy in the crew who's a total beaver for personality type. Super calculated. The joke with him is, he's always the one who's going to tell us how many people are going to die when I make a decision. But it's always welcome. I want him at the round table.
How many people are going to die, like due to COVID? Are you
or
working on a project, or
due to our next remodel. I mean,
okay.
It doesn't take
I've never heard
much.
the term "he's such a beaver."
So
is that
it comes from one of Dave Ramsey's books, actually, Entree Leadership.
okay?
He goes into different personality types in business.
Yeah.
And I identify with the lion, risk-taking, decision-making personality type.
Okay.
And he was running his own business, and he was paralyzed by it because of so many factors. And there is no perfect, this decision takes all the risk out. There's always going to be a level of it. Mm-hmm. You calculate it the best you can, but you got to make a decision. So anyways, he's been a great addition. So he folded up his operation. I brought him on board. And so now he counterbalances, me and my personality type. So, yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was just a few months ago.
Yeah.
What kind of volume are you guys doing?
Right now we're averaging about 2 contracts a month.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll keep you busy.
Yeah.
And you're keeping these deals. You're not wholesaling them off?
Oh, so now we have opened up a whole world of exit strategies, disposition strategies. So here's the process. And my right-hand man said, hey, when you go get interviewed today, don't give them all the golden gooses. And I said, all right, I'll keep it limited.
All right.
No, but so
There's
this
going to
is
be like 14 people that are going to hear this.
Well, they're not getting the golden gooses.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding, really. This is the process. We get a property under contract. First thing we do is we try to wholesale it.
Okay.
But we need to make a certain amount, at least $15,000.
Okay.
So, like, we had a deal just under contract, and we had a guy who wanted it, but $10,000 is what we would have made. So we tried to negotiate him, but we couldn't make the difference on the 5. So anyways, so we pass. So we go into our next phase. We go from wholesaling to now we're going to close on it, and we're going to do fix and flip or rent to own. So we now have a new rent to own program.
Can we back up for a sec?
Sure, go ahead.
What made you decide that 15,000 is the magical minimum floor number?
Yeah.
Is that to cover your marketing expenses, or tell me a little bit more about that? How you came up with that number?
Yeah, absolutely. So it really is marketing, overhead, the building, everything. So every month I sit down with my accountant and I say, "What was our overhead?" And she gives me this number, and we've been we've been pacing at a, X amount. I think we're around 25,000 just overhead.
Okay.
And
per month?
Per month.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's going to include our marketing and buildings and some other things. So around 25,000.
Now, is that just the acquisitions business, or is that also your construction business?
Well,
is it like a combination of the?
Definitely a combination. It's the whole operation.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I know, therefore, 25,000, we've got a net, obviously, over that, or we're in the Titanic and this thing is slowly sinking.
Right.
So that's why if we're doing 2 contracts a month, those 2 contracts need to at least make 15, and then we're clearing the overhead, and then anything the remodel side, I pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But obviously it does, and it's making money. That just helps us stay in the black.
Okay.
I don't want to rely on it.
So is that money you save, or is that money that you save up for like rental investments?
It all goes back into everything we are.
Yeah.
I and my wife, who own it, we have never taken any profit.
Okay.
We do a draw for our income, but we have never taken any profit. It all just goes right back into marketing, buying properties, scaling and growing.
So you do pay yourself, though, an
Correct.
income. Are you like a W-2 employee of one of your companies?
No. So we were doing that, and then it was best to just do a monthly draw.
Okay.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
So, tell me about was that the best deal you ever did, the second one?
Correct.
Okay.
So the goal is not to beat that, and I tell everyone in the company, that's the bar. It's been set.
Tell me about the best story you have, if you don't mind,
Sure,
on a property. The most best or worst or interesting, most interesting.
As far as acquiring, as far as the headaches we get into or remodeling,
I'm sure you're thinking of one, right?
Well, so there's one property we picked up, and we're for sure looking to profit around $28,000 cosmetic fix and flip. Okay. Because this is what I started to learn as I've gone on. I try not to over rehab. The team, I let them know, hey, this is not HGTV. We are trying to provide Spokane affordable housing.
Yeah.
And there's a shortage of it. And if someone builds a new home, it's not going to be anywhere under $350,000. So if anyone wants to buy a new home, right now it's getting more and more difficult to find a home under $200,000. So if we can pick it up for $120,000 and put $15,000 to $20,000 into it, sell it for $185,000, $195,000.
In our market, it's hard to find anything under $300,000.
Oh, absolutely.
It's insane.
Yeah. So, I try to let my team know we're providing that service, affordable housing that's clean and nice and fresh. And there's overwhelming demand for it.
Yeah.
There's not just a little demand for it. Like the majority of the demand actually is for it. So that's why since I knew that's why I doubled down with hiring an acquisitions department and everything, because
you're going to give the market what it wants.
Yeah. If we can just find those discounted properties, I've got a team now that can go in and fresh carpet, paint, click and lock floors, maybe a new kitchen, and it's a lovely place to live in, and it's on the market for $196,000. So
nice, fresh house under a couple $100,000 usually.
Yeah,
on your fix and flips.
If we can, right now it's actually kind of transitioned. So now it's hard to find a house under $250,000.
Okay.
The market has appreciated even during COVID-19.
Same here.
Yeah.
Our market's gone up, I think, just over 10% since COVID started.
That's crazy.
Insane.
Yeah.
And the inventory's gone down.
Well, and that's it. I really just think what happened, because I saw it myself, the supply and demand. I mean, yes, a lot of people were knocked out by losing their jobs. So a lot of buyers were knocked out. But then a lot of people got scared and no one wants to sell their house. So the inventory just dropped with it. So yeah, supply and demand.
Well, I think the problem here, at least in our local market, was that the people that got wiped out of their jobs, they weren't making the kind of money typically, like, so most people, it was restaurants, right? Bars. We don't have a comedy club here, but those kind of services that just can't reopen right away.
Yeah.
But most people that can work from home, they just weren't affected at all.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people moving here that learn that they can work from home. And as soon as COVID hit, all these companies are like, hey, let's try to see if we can get people to work from home.
Yeah.
Now all these people are. And now there's just an overwhelming amount of people. I speak to people every day as a real estate agent from Seattle and parts of California.
Absolutely. Those are the two.
Every day.
Those are the two.
And they tell me almost the same story. Got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And I can work
Yeah.
wherever. They tell me the same thing. I don't have to quit my job.
Yeah.
I can work from, my company says I can work from home. I can work from wherever I have internet.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just moving here like crazy. And that, people that can work from home usually make a decent salary, enough to qualify for $300,000 to $800,000 house, somewhere in there. Absolutely. On average. And it's just, we're just seeing a weird market shift going a different way than we thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure COVID will have a trickle down problem once all the stimulus money runs dry.
Correct.
And all these restaurants can't, they've already gone out of business. And
absolutely.
Manufacturing has stopped for a year, and it's I'm sure we'll see some issues.
Inevitably. So we're waiting for our team's looking at the market right now too. And obviously we got a crazy election coming up, and we're watching what the government's going to continue to do with printing money for people.
Yeah.
But even these moratoriums, that definitely plays a part, especially for me as an investor, because a big part of what we do is, we help people out in distressed situations.
Could you talk about talk about what that is?
Yeah.
I don't think we're really dealing with much of that here.
Oh, okay. So, the moratoriums kind of happen on twofold. Those who want to stop paying their mortgage are now in forbearance, not necessarily foreclosure. And so, the mortgage companies are basically being required to extend the process. And so they're not even showing up on lists that we would normally go and pull. We're not seeing as many pre-foreclosures or those in that process.
Right.
So that's kind of on hold.
So like there's a shadow inventory coming.
Correct.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially.
So that inventory could be coming. I mean, we're, helping a client right now who's in a situation where they're not paying their mortgage, but the bank's not too worried about it. Boy, there was one person we came across where they hadn't paid their mortgage in 2 years. And I didn't even know. I mean, it shocked me the bank, had allowed that to go on for 2 years.
Oh, I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was the first,
one of the last pre-foreclosures that we bought off someone the day before it went to auction.
Mm-hmm.
They were missing their payments for the majority of the last 5 years. They'd do something just before a foreclosure happened to kind of extend the process.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they were playing the system or really going through tough times, but
for
5 years during like an economic boom.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and, here I was going to come in and help them. And I'm like, I mean, we'll just pay your back payments. And then I got that sent to me, and it was like $45,000 in back payments and all these other fees and stuff. And I said, whoa.
Do you remember which mortgage servicer it was?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not. I just was shocked that, and I guess you're right. They can just continue to do these things to kick the can down the road. So,
yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're at this position right now where, a lot of investors I've spoken with are kind of looking 6 months out. The stimulus can't go on forever. The moratoriums can't go on forever. So eventually this Novocaine that's been injected into the economy is going to wear off, and we're going to feel the pain. So we're going to try to position the best we can in that, but we'll see how that plays out.
Okay. How are you preparing? Are you just trying to save up money? Or are you trying to... Tell me. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. No, go ahead. I was just going to say, one is liquidate. So we're definitely getting rid of a lot of fix and flips right now. And one is not doing as deep and extensive fix and flips now. I'm not trying to get into a,
smart.
Yeah, 6 or 7 month fix and flip and end up on that market that right now doesn't look good. We don't know, but it just doesn't look good. So one is just slider fix and flips, month, 2 months, 3 maximum. Gives us a little bit more, forecast ability.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when things start to shift, they typically shift pretty fast.
Yes. Yeah. And if you're 1 month into an 8-month fix and flip, you're holding those cards.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. So I got into some new construction projects, and it's at least a year out to finish. We've got 7 houses in the pipeline now.
Great.
But we won't be done for a year, at least. So, but we have a pretty damn good margin to withstand a big market shift if needed. But hopefully 30% is enough.
Correct.
Over the next 12 years.
And that's a great
12
buffer.
Months, sorry.
No, yeah, that's a great buffer. Because even if it shifts down, and really, new construction, having housing in a world that the population's only growing, and they're not building houses fast enough, I think you're just in a safe position regardless.
I think so too. But it's fun. A wise man told me, "Hey, if you're ever certain about something, please give me a call. I'd like to play the stock market with you."
Yeah, that's pretty true. That's good.
It was a good wake up call because I told him I was certain about something, and yeah, he slapped me in the back of the head over the phone. Pretty good about that.
That is funny.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So how many rentals have you been able to acquire this last year?
Currently we have 1, 2, and a third one. So we only have 1 rental. The rest are going to be rent to own.
Okay.
And the reason being is, again, going back to moratoriums on it for landlords.
Yep.
I feel for every landlord out there right now.
Yeah. So you're investing in all Washington, right?
Spokane County is the target market right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're, doubling down, tripling down. And once that market is just automated, systemated, this is our wheelhouse for everything we're doing across the board, we will start expanding. But Spokane County is where we're staying focused right now.
Okay.
Yeah. But what was the question? I just totally lost it.
How many rentals are you up to?
Yeah. So, no, I was just going to say we're not doing rentals anymore.
Okay.
We're doing rent to own. And rent to own requires a down option payment. Mm-hmm. And when they have, $10,000 skin in the game, they're less likely to all of a sudden camp in your house for 6 months and not pay you.
Right.
So that's what we're doing to mitigate against that.
So how do you set up a rent-to-own deal?
So what we do, because we make sure our rent-to-own, our lease options are Dodd-Frank compliant.
Okay.
So we actually buy a house, discounted property, do a light cosmetic, fix and flip. Say we pick it up again for $120, put $30 into it. We're into it $150, and the house value's at $225. We'll do a rent to own for $225, $235. You can do rent to own for a premium since you're the one carrying the property, and then we require 5% down.
Okay.
And then from there, you enter into a lease agreement, so they're still renting it. It's a lease option, and the option is to buy it at $235. Option gets recorded against the property, so I can't sell it to anyone else. Mm-hmm. They have the right to buy it. And in the event they exercise that option, it goes towards the principal, and then a portion of the rent will also go towards the principal.
Okay.
And in the beginning, we actually have partnered with a mortgage company, And so the mortgage company, the first thing we do is we actually have them go and basically go through underwriting with the mortgage company, because we want to know how soon will they be mortgage ready.
Yeah, you want to see what kind of contingencies the lender's going to give them, or conditions to approve a loan, right?
Yeah, because we
And
want
have them work on that over time.
Correct.
Yeah.
We want them to do credit repair and everything else. We want them to buy the house from us.
Yeah.
So this is another thing we're just launching, actually, is a Rendall rent to own. We're going to have a website and properties and everything, because the lane to the path to home ownership is narrowing and narrowing.
Yeah.
Banks are requiring more and more, better credit score, better or lower DTI, better W-2s, on and on it goes.
Yeah. A 30-year job history.
Correct. Yeah. And so, fewer and fewer are being able to qualify for homes.
So how are you buying these houses? Now, I know you said private money, hard money earlier. Are you eventually refinancing them after you do your renovation?
Absolutely.
Okay. So you're able to lock in low debt or long-term low interest debt?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So that way it also cash flows, because, obviously we get at a low interest rate. Well, the rent to own, they're paying at a higher monthly. So it's cash flowing. And then one day when they obviously buy the property, then we collect the spread on that. So one, we win as an investor, but two, we're providing this path to home ownership to people who, are like self-employed. They make money. They have money in the bank. Yeah. But they can't go and qualify for a mortgage right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's a new thing.
So you're doing the BRRRR strategy and with the rent own. One more.
There you go.
One more R.
One more R on there. Yep. That's it. And if I can get it to BRRRR, they don't always BRRRR. There's, so.
So you feel like within a year or so, the market's going to go down, and you don't want to be stuck with these rental. Are they cash flowing now? Would they cash flow normally?
Correct. The market would have to go down, a fair bit. I'd say the 20 to 30%, is a pretty good mark. And then I'd still be at break even, but I'd still keep them as rentals. So if they weren't able to fall through, I'd put a new renter in, but obviously they would be paying at a lower rate. So if it corrects, it's going to correct for everyone. We'll all adjust.
Okay.
But yeah, so we're just doing a few rent-to-owns, just doing quicker fix and flips, doing wholesales. And one of the big things what we're doing right now is partnering up. What I have come to find is there's lots of investors sitting on money, but they need deals.
Yep.
Well, I'm sitting on deals, and I need money. I call this the reverse surplus. Literally just made this up with my team last week. Someone out there has the opposite of you and vice versa. What you need, they have an abundance, and you have a deficit of.
Yeah.
But ironically, or in reverse, what they need, you probably have in surplus, have an abundance, but they have the deficit. So we always kind of think everyone has the same problem as us.
That's not true at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so this is why, again, your network is your net worth. Why networking is so crucial, because people out there, what you're in desperate need of, they have so much, they're trying to find people to give it away to.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of, where we're at. So
I mean, it's not any different than you've got this construction job, and you've got this guy who would love some work, but he'll know how to get jobs. But you can just plug him right in, and he'd be happy to just work all day on your construction job, and you don't have the time to go do it.
Correct.
So the more people that you can plug into what they need,
correct.
The more you help people get what they want, the more you'll get.
Absolutely.
Seems like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And this goes back to marketing. And this year is probably one of the biggest push is everything's about marketing for growing this company now. Because yes, okay, so you have an abundance of what that guy needs, but he doesn't know you exist.
Yeah.
And marketing is the only way he's going to know you exist. And so, I heard this from one of the biggest gurus out there, but if you're not in marketing, you're not in business. And you have to be good at marketing if you're going to be good at business.
Yeah.
So,
and when you say marketing, you don't necessarily mean that you're throwing your face in a newspaper somewhere with your phone number. What kind of, There's all kinds of different ways you can market yourself.
Totally.
One of the most effective ways is just get on the phone and introduce yourself to somebody or show up at a networking event.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
find out what people need.
Yeah. Absolutely.
How can you help them?
Yeah. And, part of it too is there's 1,000 ways, like you're saying, you can market. But even that kind of brings up the 80-20 rule, which,
What's the most effective?
Yeah, because they say half of marketing works. The problem is you don't know which half. But you can know once you start measuring, your marketing.
So what's your 20% that brings in your 80?
So that's a great question, and that is something we analyze every day. So 80-20 is the theme of how we run our company. In fact, if there were like one thing I could start to like pin, this was the thing that took this company to the next level and next level and next level, was when I started diving into Pareto's rule of 80% of your results is coming from 20% of your effort, and vice versa. When I started realizing, that 80% of my time is producing 20% of the results, I started realizing I'm wasting tons of time. So when I started early on realizing this, I remember I got the book 80-20 Sales and Marketing. That's the part 2 really of that book.
Yeah.
I started realizing I'm never going to do another dump run. I'm never going to go to the bank again and cash checks. There was like 1,000 things I was realizing I'm doing every week. And
just because you think you have to.
Yes. And there's a dopamine effect from a checklist.
Yeah.
And she's checked.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I get that dopamine rush every time I make a checklist.
Yeah, I do still too.
I'm doing so much. Oh, yeah. Check. Yeah, brush my teeth. Check.
Yeah, I know.
Take my dog out. Oh,
yeah. It feels so good. But the reality is, like, but what was the one thing you did that closed a deal that week? Mm-hmm. And then I started analyzing, my efforts around that. And so for me, the 3 Ds are huge. For 80% of the stuff that you need to quit doing, delete or delegate. I mean, I turned into a delegating machine.
Yeah.
Like my wife was like, "You do anything for the company?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I do some stuff, but only the important stuff." Because I would just delegate everything. And then
I can totally, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Almost everything I have to. You do this. You do this. You do this. I remember I asked my assistant once. I was in a rush. I called her because I was going from one appointment to the other, and I was going to miss lunch, but I had a steak here. Mm-hmm. I'm like, "Hey, could you go heat up my steak and cut it up for me, and I'll be in the parking lot in 10 minutes." But it's just it's nice to be in a position to where if you're offering enough value to enough people, you can delegate pretty much everything, even cleaning your house.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, again, it was like launch. It was like scale. It was like rocket. I mean, it was great. And now I tell, my leads to do the same thing. I mean, when I see a guy who I'm paying $32 an hour caulk baseboard, I'm like, man, no, like you should be building a banister. I mean, and it's, he should be caulking baseboard. And once he has caulking down, he can move up from there and so on and so forth. But so we all have to do this because it's leverage. And it's actually massive leverage. It's more leverage than I ever had even realized. And especially since I started, because everyone's biggest complaint is what? You don't have time. Mm-hmm. I don't have time to do anything. Well, it's because you're not applying the 80-20 rule. Because as soon as I started applying it, I started having like a lot of time.
Yeah.
Which was great because then I wanted
to forget, oh, wait, what should I really be working on?
Totally.
To make up for all this.
Which was a great problem to have.
Yeah.
Because it means I could go home at 2:00 and hang out with my son and my wife, so I could get an early day. But it also allowed me to focus on, because I started to tell this, and my right-hand man knows this. As long as he's implementing 80-20, I don't care what he does with his 40 hours. And he's aware of this. If he goes home early, I don't really care because he's crushing it so much with deleting and delegating stuff he doesn't need to be doing and just constantly focusing on deals, locking them up under contract, booking out months in advance.
Yeah.
I mean, what the value he brings is so much more than,
Like, you don't have to keep an eye on him.
No.
Right? He's just out there he's doing what you asked him to do.
Yeah, I don't even worry about him because he's being so effective with his time.
He's making you money and not costing you money, right?
Correct. Simple as that.
And when you have somebody that can do that, it's like, why work 8 hours a day?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Like, I don't think we're designed to work 8 hours a day.
Just grind and you got
just
nothing
messes
left
with our psyche. But if we could just and I think we can get 8 hours of work done in a day in just 15 minutes sometimes.
True. That's 80.
If we just do the right things.
Exactly. No, and that's, again, you get me going on 80-20. I'm probably not going to stop talking about it, but it's because it's changed my business. It's changed my life. I mean, there was a point, I remember prior to learning all this, I developed this eye twitch over the summer. And it was because I was so stressed out, and I was just working.
I've had those.
And I was working, 40, 50 hours. And then after grinding all day, I'd go home and put bids together. And then all of a sudden, I started implementing 80-20. And then all of a sudden, I started being able to go home at 2 o'clock. Yet the company was starting to make more money, not less money.
Yeah.
Yet I was working less, not more. It's a game changer.
Oh, yeah. I totally agree. I noticed I've been in this business almost 10 years now. And my first 3 years, I worked the most I've ever worked in the history of that career. It was easily 60-hour weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But I was doing it all. And I did not make much money. The first 3 years. I remember my fourth or fifth year, I had this one 2-month period. Where I looked back and I made more money in those 2 months than I did the first 3 years combined.
Yeah,
and I was working way less. I was working 3 hours a day and taking a couple days off during the week and weekends, just because I just started delegating. I was able to do the important things first and always have the important marketing or prospecting things rocked down. So they're concrete.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just getting done.
Mm-hmm.
They were on the calendar, and I would always do that. And I can pretty much offload the rest to other people.
Yep.
But I totally understand that feeling. That all of a sudden time doesn't mean as much as it used to.
Yep. Yeah, and being busy does not mean being productive.
No.
And that's what changed. And that's why now, you almost have to create this habit, because the dopamine effect, once I get going checklist mode, I'm like, oh man, this feels good. But I'm not necessarily doing 80-20, and I have to watch myself. So something I do in the mornings is I do what's all got to get done today. You can usually probably jot down 10 things, but I know 2 of them are the 20.
Yeah.
I know 2 of them are the game changer.
So do you get those done first, or you wait for 9 and 10?
I try to hone in on those. Now, normally they're scheduled, though.
Yeah.
It's 10 o'clock. I've got this appointment with a new lender. He really wants this deal. This is huge. It's like a $60,000 net profit for us. And so everything revolves around that. And I tell my team, the team will rally around a deal. 80-20 also depends on, what's going on. And if something where all of a sudden this $75,000 profit deal just emerged and we got to get under contract and we got to get rolling with it, then they know to drop everything they're doing and rally with me on this. We got to go walk it right now. We stop what we're doing. We're going to walk it right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we have that mentality and focus on that, because that's 80-20. If that one deal paid for everyone that month, then everyone should stop what they're doing, and we're going to focus on this deal right now.
Yeah.
So
that's good to know ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Then people know what their priorities should be.
Correct.
Hey, this is going to make a lot of money. Go ahead and everything you're working on, drop it. Let's focus on this. Let's get it done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then
because things can wait. Most things can wait.
Yeah.
In this business, and they're not going to fall apart immediately.
Correct.
Because most 80% of what we're doing is admin work anyway.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas there's a loose football in the field, and if we don't scramble on that and jump on it,
right,
the other team's going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, so it's been a wild year.
Yeah.
What if you had one piece of advice for someone who's just starting off, and they want to do what you did?
Mm-hmm.
What's one thing you'd recommend doing, and what's one thing you'd recommend not doing?
I would say pick your niche and stick with it.
Okay.
So, especially if you're just starting, it's really easy to get super excited and chase all the shiny objects.
I think that's solid advice because real estate is so big.
Yeah.
And there's so many different things to do, so many different seminars to go to and take, and you can just become a seminar junkie and get nothing done for 5 years because there's so many different strategies out there. Okay, so pick your niche is one.
Yeah.
What's one thing you wouldn't?
I got to tell you what I just heard the other night. This guy said, I mean, I get it. There's so many YouTube videos on how to do all of this. And he says, and the problem with every one of them is they're right. I never thought about this. He's right. That everyone's got this point and this point. Yeah, it's true. But the point is you can just spend endless hours studying this stuff. Yeah. But it's about pick your lane and roll with it. So if you're jumping in and you want to be a realtor, then like crush it. Even though there's a million realtors all around you, commit to it. Like you're going to learn more about it and understand it better than anyone and just go for it. Eventually, you're also going to be an investor and probably have some rentals. Eventually, you're going to have this, but be the realtor. Yeah. For me, luckily, I was the contractor.
Right.
And all my momentum came from the contractor. And then I was able to build on that in time. You know, if you're coming in, okay, wholesaling, that's it. A lot of wholesalers. It doesn't matter how many, how big the competition is. Life gives you what you put into it. So what you get out, what you put in is what you get out. So that's my big thing. Pick your niche and stick to it and just give it all you got.
Okay. What's one thing you'd recommend not doing? What's one of the biggest mistakes that you've learned from? That may not be like so obvious.
No, yeah. So the biggest mistake, but it was pretty bad. It wasn't. In the end, I was able to skate by, but I started as a buy and holder and then did fix and flip and then did wholesaler. That's actually backwards. You're supposed to wholesale and then get quick cash, go for the quick nickel, not the slow dime. And you're supposed to do it that way. I'm lucky that I was able to raise enough money to get me through that storm.
Now, could I ask you, why do you think you're supposed to do it that way?
For me, because you can run out of cash so fast in this sport, so fast, that getting those quick nickels to add up will help you through those storms because you're going to have some fix and flips that drain your bank account. I've had a couple.
Right.
And luckily, I had enough resources to get through it. But if you have small resources, you'll be out. A lot of people are one and done in real estate. And that's how it's easy to do that. So that's 2 cents on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I've always thought of wholesaling as a totally different breed of... I feel like it's a much more of an advanced strategy because you have to not only know how to analyze a deal, you also have to know construction, or at least get a real good idea about construction. You got to know how to market for deals. You got to know who you're going to sell it to. So you got to have this huge list of investors that you're going to try to sell it to. You have to be really good at people and trying to explain that you're going to make a profit in between. You're basically going to broker their deal without a license. I mean, that's essentially what you're doing. I know that legally you have equitable interest, but come on, you're being a broker basically.
Yeah.
While telling people that you're going to buy their house, or I feel like it's a much more advanced strategy because there's so many goddamn pieces involved, and timing is very critical. Yeah. I mean, you have like how many days to get it under contract in order to meet that deadline?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then how are you gonna justify somebody giving you a non-refundable deposit? And how do you mess with that? How do you convince a title company to jump on board with what you're doing? Because half of them don't know how to put an assignment fee on a settlement statement. Maybe it's just me. But I feel like sometimes it's more simple to just buy a house, have somebody fix it up, and sell it, or keep it. But of course, it's much more complicated than that. But you don't have you don't have to be a specialist in all these other things.
I totally hear what you're saying. I guess for me, the buying the house, the fixing it up, the flipping it, now I heard this from a guy, buying a house is a lot like going to prison. It's easy to get in, hard to get out. Yeah. And so since I've learned that as a fixer and flipper, luckily I'm a contractor, so I have the skills to get out maybe better than most.
Right.
But if you're a rookie, boy, it can really chew you up and spit you out. So I think the wholesaler just has less liability in that they don't have to tie up their cash. They're just tying up a property under contract, finding a cash buyer. Now, yes, I'd say it's advanced. I definitely wouldn't deny that. Because also you're not aiming for the 95% of people want to sell their home. It's the 5% that are distressed and need out immediately.
Yeah.
So you're going for a very small sliver, and then you have to have the skill set
to be able to walk them through what you're doing.
Yes. And then do all this in a short time frame. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
But there's enough tutorials out there to get you through it.
For sure. And I'm probably making it sound way worse than it is.
Yeah.
But I've always found that to be comical, almost, that this is a beginner move. because I've been to plenty of seminars. And this is what they start you off with.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we'll just do some wholesales, and then we'll get into the fix and flips. And like, come on.
Yeah.
Wholesaling it's money intensive too. I mean, I know a lot of wholesalers that spend tons of money on marketing.
Yeah, we spend $10,000 a month on marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I understand. I'll tell you this. This is why I would say it's an entry point. There's one thing a rookie fresh off the street, just watch a YouTube tutorial can do that the big dogs aren't necessarily going to do. We're all doing SMS text blasting, RVMs, phone calls, flyers, etc., and we're doing it by mass.
Yeah.
Whereas they can hop in their car and they can just drive up and down the streets and look for distressed properties, knock on a door, and if they really were going to dig in their heels and just like, man, I'm just going to do this for a month until I get a deal, they could probably actually get a deal. And a deal that could, net them $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. And most people only make $30,000 in a year. Mm-hmm. That's not too bad. So they have this one, entry point where the big dogs just aren't door knocking as much. Some not even at all. I'd say maybe even most. But so because of that, but I'm totally with you on this. This is where I totally agree with you. That you got to have a certain skin type, though.
Yeah. You
got to be able to handle. I mean, this is
people getting angry at you.
Yeah, I've been cussed off of porches. Get out of my property.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not for everyone. And then once you get involved with the seller and the cash buyer, that one of them don't try to squeeze you out.
That's happened.
Yeah. So I'm totally with you in that. This isn't for 95%. It's probably still just for 5% of the population.
Right. I just and I don't. I mean, I'm not downplaying wholesaling at all. I'm trying to upplay it.
Yeah.
Because it's, and I've been to a lot of seminars, and I just think it's so funny when they try to show you how easy wholesaling is.
I totally agree.
And I guess you can look at it with any perspective that you want. Oh, well, that is simple. You got a property under contract and you sign it for a fee and it's done. But there's a lot more to it.
Oh, totally agree.
And I've done it a couple of times personally. Wish I would have kept the houses, but I wish I would have kept every house that I flipped in the last 5 years, 6 years.
Well, when you're at that point, for sure. Yeah. I mean, that's the end game. I mean, to get to a point where your passive income is more than your expenses, you're out of the rat race. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And if you can expedite that track, that's why you see all these gurus and get on YouTube videos and I was retired in 2 years. And I was like, man, well, nice job. So
don't trust them.
You never know. I know. Well, it's because so many people try to follow that path and then all of a sudden they bankrupt themselves. So it's not easy for sure.
Yeah. All right.
Great.
Well, thanks for your time. You got anything else you want to talk about?
No, that's it, man. I really appreciate you having me. Thanks.
Well, it's good to get to know you.
Yeah.
And wish you all the success.
Thanks.
With or without COVID.
Yeah. Sounds great. We'll see where it goes.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Investor Shed podcast. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel for instant access to all future episodes. If you or someone you know has investing experience or stories to share, reach out to us in the comments or via email.